All right, y'all. Looking at the thumbnail, y'all see the title, bro. We got what the name? Meru. You know, Hunter x Hunter versus King Ant is extremely close, bro. I told y'all who will win this one, bro. I went with Hunter x Hunter, bro, or Hunter x Hunter, however y'all want to pronounce it, bro. And people got to remember, this is King Ant. This is not King Ant when he is when he be in control over what you call it. Let's get it.
Beru versus Meruem is a
like I said, this is King Ant. This is not King. This is current King Ant. This is not the King Ant, the Shadow King Ant. I don't know why people be so confused about stuff like this though. Like the man ain't even said King Ant. I mean Shadow King Ant, bro.
battle that I've always wanted to make ever since I read the solo leveling manual. Two creatures that are similar in so many ways, both being kings possessing similar abilities, showing their clear dominance over most characters in their particular series. It's also not a secret that the whole concept of the Jeju Island arc is straight up copied from Hunter x Hunter's Chimera Ant arc, which certainly makes this matchup very interesting. In this video, we'll try to analyze both of these characters' stats and abilities to find out who deserves the
cell looking guy solo, bro. I'm just being real, bro. But if it was the Shadow one, then yeah, then I'll give it to the Shadow King Ant thing. But if we're not doing a Shadow King Ant, then yo, the current Ant like this in this form, his final, I guess, form, yo, you're getting watched, bro. You're not him.
Claim of being the true king. But before that, do not forget to decapitate the subscribe button and the notification bell for more of these types of videos. Thank you. Meruem is certainly the strongest
I call him Meru
character we've ever seen in the Hunter x Hunter series, it being so strong that the only thing that eventually managed to kill him was poison, implied to being the only pragmatic way
I did forgot poison kill him.
Employed by arguably the strongest hunter in the world that seeks nothing but a proper challenge, which means even the strongest of the strongest was not sure he can contend with the Ant King. Now, if we talk about this from a narrative standpoint, Meruem should heavily be above any displayed physical or destructive feat we've ever seen in the entire series, which means things such as Yuppie's Rage Blast that exerted 467 tons of TNT, making it large town level in terms of destructiveness, and Netero's Zero Hand would absolutely not be effective in dealing with Meruem. As a matter of fact, we can actually estimate a ceiling to his durability that should correlate to his attack potency by estimating how strong the poor man's Rose Bomb is, as this attack evidently almost shut down the lights for Meruem. But the fact still remains that he was still intact, which means he somehow scales to it at some degree. This specific bomb can output energy approximately close to 50 megatons of TNT, making it comparable to the most destructive nuclear bomb in the entire world, which certainly fits narratively as the bomb was described as one of the most powerful and dangerous weapons in the world, and Togashi seems to be realistic when it comes to these regards. Now, post-Rose Meruem, who is implied to being much more powerful than before due to partially absorbing both Yuppie and Poof, has this one insane feat of casually decimating this large plateau, exerting 546 megatons of TNT, making it mountain level in terms of destructiveness. But listen, I get it. Some people just have a hard time to believe that since he didn't really destroy a mountain on screen, then it shouldn't be regarded as mountain level. But things like vaporization and pulverization exist, allowing to estimate what type of damage was done by environmental cues. You see, in a lot of cases, a character doesn't really need to destroy a mountain to be specified as a mountain level character. Now, when it comes to the speed department, when fighting against the fastest hunter in the world, it was explicitly stated that Meruem could barely follow Netero's afterimage in the compressed time, which means even though he would most definitely get hit 10 out of 10 of the times, he's still technically not getting blitzed. But does that mean he should be relative to Netero, who was capped at Mach 154, making him massively hypersonic? The definitive answer is obviously no, as it was clearly stated that Meruem's strategy to win involved figuring out his his patterns, relying on his durability to eventually find the correct needle. But you see, given the fact that Meruem exchanged hundreds of thousands of blows in under a minute when he was also initiating the attacks, he shouldn't be that inferior. So for the sake of this video, we'll be giving him the regular low-end lightning moves, which is massively hypersonic. Pre-Rose Meruem's speed, however, is unfortunately very vague. He never had any fights after the bomb, and the only thing he displayed is flashing his in at the speed of light. People paired this with the fact that he can control photons, justifying putting Meruem at the levels of movements that can rival the speed of light. I mean, I personally believe that that's a reach when the panel clearly states that the only thing that moves at the speed of light was his N and not Meruem himself. Blitzing Melarion and Knuckle after just doesn't prove anything of that level. However, for the sake of just having fun and humoring those who believes in this meta, we make sure to include it at the end of the video. We'd also be discussing their abilities when we eventually talk about how this would go. And with all of this being said, can the original in this case overcome the imitation?
I think not. Ugh.
Beru, the Ant King, an anomaly of being that was born with one and only purpose.
Now, Shadow Ant King, yeah, but this, like, current Ant King, no, bro. Speed, I don't know about the speed. Now, the speed, you know what I'm saying? The speed, now that speed, you know what I'm just saying, but I don't know.
To kill everybody that gets in the way. This creature is extremely brutal towards his opponents as he makes sure to decapitate them and absorb them just to get stronger. Becomes later a devoted shadow soldier that seeks nothing but to serve Jinwoo. However, how strong is the Ant King? Now, to get a general idea, it is very important to understand where he generally sits at in terms of inverse scaling. Beru, not only was he able to defeat every single S-rank hunter from 2 different regions tasked to annihilate the Ant Queen, but was also able to complete a load of Gotoryuji. Gotoryuji is considered to be the strongest hunter in Japan, possibly possessing powers that could contend with national level hunters. You see, these types of hunters are stated to rival a nuclear warhead in terms of pure firepower and possesses enough strength to rival a country's military might. This is obviously not the ceiling of their powers, but more so just the criteria the world has put to classify these hunters, which means that national level hunters are much stronger than that requirement, seeing how Thomas can push base Rakon to partially transform, and Gotoryuji should meet the same requirements based on various statements despite being cleared by Beru, which basically means that the Ant King should exert force relative to that of 50 megatons of TNT, making him city level in terms of attack potency for being able to withstand the strongest nuclear explosion in history. This could be backed up by the fact that Jinwoo thinks that Beru is stronger and more durable than Baron, who in the anime generated an explosion that can put him at the same tier. It's also very important to note that Beru could be estimated on levels much higher than this, but due to the lack of additional information, this should be his proper level. Now, when it comes to speed, things are in fact much easier to quantify. You see, the Demon King Baron has the ability to employ various lightning attacks perceived and dodged by Jinwoo. Beru, not only was he slightly contending with the latter, but he's also straight up stated to being stronger than Baron by Jinwoo's estimation. As a matter of fact, when Jinwoo made the comparison, it is highly possible that he was only strictly talking about his strength and speed in that specific moment, since Beru after states that his true specialty in combat is speed, indicating that he wasn't operating using his upper limits, which certainly means that he should be superior to Baron in that regard, making him operating at massively hypersonic speeds. And with all of this being said, can Beru accomplish what the Hunter x Hunter verse couldn't?
I don't think so though. Like I said, his speed might carry. It's possible his speed might carry, but I still think Old Buddy win though.
Now, it's completely obvious that I deliberately avoided talking about both of these characters' abilities, since if you really think about it, aside from Beru's poison, nothing really can be used in this fight to get the upper hand. Both can get considerably stronger by absorbing life energy, whether it's mana or nin, which is irrelevant in a 1v1 situation. Beru, on the other hand, can also detect life presence even if it's totally invisible, so something like Zetsu wouldn't really be an advantage for Meruem, which technically means that these two would have to rely on their physical stats to overcome each other. And surprisingly, both of these characters, not only are they narratively similar to each other, but also relative in terms of strength. You see, each individually can exert city level of attack potency derived from the fact that they can both withstand nuclear power. And even in the speed department, both should be relative to each other, scaling to attacks that can operate at massively hypersonic speeds, which makes this whole fight extremely contentious and very close. But you see, that's only when observing their stats on the surface and turning a blind eye on some specific facts. Strictly speaking, Meruem does indeed scale to the Rose Bomb, but only when talking about his durability operating at its absolute upper limits, in contrast to Beru, who should narratively scale to national level hunters who can tank nukes comfortably, which means that although both of them belongs in the city level department, Beru should be operating from a higher floor. Same case can also be said about speed, since the legitimacy of being massively hypersonic is more credible in Beru's case in contrast to Meruem's, since if we say that Netero is only 2 times faster than Meruem, that would make the latter only high hypersonic plus, which is a tier below being able to react and fight at the speed of lightning, which leads us to believe that even if Meruem would be able to contend in this start, he would eventually be overwhelmed by the Black Ant. However, things would drastically change when it comes to post-Rose Meruem. You see, the only way Beru would be able to contend in this regard is only if you interpret the national level hunter statement to mean that they can withstand all the nuclear power a country can dish out, which is a big if. But if you don't, post-Rose Meruem is sitting comfortably and casually at mountain level tiers in terms of attack potency, something that Beru wouldn't be able to handle. And even if you want to argue that Meruem still lacks speed, the buff he attained at this point from Poof and Yuppie should allow him to reach the massively hypersonic speeds. Now, pairing this with multiple casual mountain level blasts would certainly be able to cripple Beru in no time. And even if Beru successfully employs poison on Meruem, he'd still be able to defeat him before it starts taking effect, since he does have superior poison resistance that would allow him to live much longer, which ultimately means that Beru would certainly be able to defeat Meruem in his first state, but sadly loses to him after the Rose's Bomb. Now, before concluding this video, I wanna note that I deliberately avoided mentioning Beru's stats after becoming a Shadow Soldier, since they're never—
See, I think that's the part people keep going with the Shadow Soldier. This is not Shadow. We're not talking about the Shadow, bro. I don't know why people always trying to go with the Shadow. But it's crazy though. We just going with his current. It's current, bro.
Constant, and he keeps evolving. However, if we talk about his martial grade states, Meruem would never be able to deal with him even when using the unreasonable light speed meta. Beru would easily one-shot him, and it's not even close. Thank you so much for watching, and please take good care.
There you go right now, man. I told y'all, man. I've been telling people this for the longest, bro. King Ant is getting obliterated. Now, if we're in Shadow, then of course, King Ant solo. It's just that easy, bro. Simple. But yeah, I'm out. Let's go.